What is going on, everybody? Greetings and salutations. It is I, Maple from Vault 99 Games. And today we are here to discuss our first ever trip to a card show as a vendor. Yeah, sound effects going crazy. It was fun. Fun is the way I would describe it. I had a great time. We're going to dive in today into this episode. I'm going to talk about basically the whole day from start to finish, my preparation for it, and, how things went. I didn't really have expectations necessarily set forward. I didn't want to set myself up for failure. I wanted to kind of go into it just with a positive mindset, and we're going to do the best that we possibly can, hopefully not make any bad deals, and hopefully make a few sales. And I would say everything went pretty well, all things considered. Started off the day very early, woke up hours before the show started because I had some things that I wasn't able to get to the night before because I went to the release of Fantastic Four. Priorities, you know what I mean? So we went to the release with Fantastic Four. Had to see that the night before. That was awesome. And then, so I had to wake up extra early to print off I wanted to print off a paper basically saying of what forms of payment we accept. Decided to go with Apple Pay, Zelle, Venmo, and of course, cash. Cash is king. And surprisingly, which I thought was pretty cool, we took payments on each form of payment, so I'm glad that we did that. I didn't really have to go outside of my wheelhouse. I didn't have to download anything extra. I already had all of those already set up and rocking, and so I'm glad, because possibly could not have made a sale if I didn't have access to all four of those options. So had to make a little paper in the morning, basically saying, these are the forms of payment we accept with the QR codes, had our logo on it, and then had to run to the bank, get some floating cash for, our cash sales and things of that nature. Had to get all that set up, got all the cards set up the night before. I went over my prices on, so to back up a little bit, we came to the show with 2 Pokemon binders. One was full of a mix between full arts, EXs, full art EXs, some gold cards here and there. And then the other one was Vs, V-Stars, V-Max, A-Spec, holographic energies, like cracked ice and things of that nature, full art trainers, and some vintage. That was 2 of the Pokemon binders. Went with a Yu-Gi-Oh binder, which that one ended up doing quite well for me. That was a mix between vintage Yu-Gi-Oh from stuff I had as a wee young lad, and some modern day Yu-Gi-Oh stuff that I've been ripping just recently, which that was pretty enjoyable. And then the 4th and final binder excuse me, was sports. So we had football, basketball, and baseball. And I would say that binder got a lot of traction, a lot of use, a lot of lucky, but not a lot of sales. So I'll kind of dig into that a little bit more on, my thoughts on maybe what happened with that. But so those are the 4 binders. And then I had a display case, took up probably about half of the 6-foot table. So about 3 foot wide by probably 4.5 feet long, maybe 5 feet long, something like that. A good size rectangle. Had that puppy set up with PSA slabs. Had a couple of sports slabs from a collection that we picked up earlier in the week. I'll talk more about that collection in our next update video of we hit our next milestone. We hit $3,000 in total sales for this venture for all our cards, and we'll talk about that collection that we picked up and things that we found inside of it in that video. But so for the case, we had it filled to the brim. Actually, there was no more room for anything. I had to be a little strategic with my placement for items. So I don't know Again, I don't know if that was a contributing factor of not making as many sales, but I feel like everything was very visible. You can see the grades on everything, and you clearly see what the card was. People asked, and I gladly took them out of the case to show them and stuff. So aside from the graded slabs, so the box has 4 slots. About 2 of the slots slabs took up, and then the other 2 spots I had top loader cards. Basically anything that was pretty much over $10. There was a few exceptions here and there in the binder. I just didn't have room. But majority was everything over $10. I put in a top loader and I sticker priced it with a sticker and had it in the display case. So those took up the other 2 rows, had ranging from SIR to IRs for Pokemon, had some autographed sports cards, some numbered sports cards, anything in far in between, you know what I mean? We had it in there. So we had a pretty good inventory, I would say. Got some compliments on our inventory size for being our first show and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Made me feel good. I wasn't too sure if I was going with enough or too much, or I just wasn't too sure. So it was nice to kind of get some feedback from some nice folks. So that was pretty cool. And so that's what we went with the show. And so all of that being said, so back in the morning, I printed off the paper with our forms of payment. And the first thing I did was I checked all of our cards that I was going to top load and put in the case, as well as the slabs. So I priced them out already, maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, the top loader cards. But I wanted to just kind of get a day of up-to-date price on all of them, which I'm glad I did. Definitely some change. Some of the modern Yu-Gi-Oh went up actually, which is awesome because I was able to get rid of that stuff pretty quickly. But yeah, I wanted to check all those day of, make sure to get prices for all of them. I decided with the slabs that I didn't have the proper bag to put the slabs in. It was I got the wrong bag, and so it was really too big for the slab, and it was kind of like overextending on it. And so I didn't really decided not to, because I was going to put the bag on the slabs and put a sticker on the bag. I didn't want to put a sticker directly on the slab because I feel like it was kind of be annoying to get it off and you have the residue and stuff like that. And so I didn't have the proper bag. So I decided I'm just going to price the slabs, write it all down on my notebook, and I'm not going to price them. People ask, I'll tell them. And so that's how we did that. So after I repriced everything, got the pricing stuff, or I'm sorry, the payment stuff printed out, got ready. That was pretty much everything. Loaded everything up. We had about 2 backpacks full of product, and then our display case. So it wasn't we didn't have tubs or anything crazy like that. There was some people loading up some tubs of stuff. That was kind of wild. Yeah, about 2 backpacks full of stuff, and then yeah, display case showed up right pretty much as they opened. They opened up at 7:30. I wanted to get there early and find our table, figure out, you know, see who we're next to, maybe chit chat with some vendors, stuff like that, get to know some people, which is pretty cool, and get set up and ready to rock. So we got there at 7:30, got to our table, started setting up right away, which I'm glad we got there early. It gave me time to kind of figure out the layout of the table that I wanted, which I could have done that sooner. I could have like mocked up my own table there or at home and something that did that, but you know, wanted to do that at the show, which I'm glad I did. I went through a couple different layouts of what I thought would go better, and you know, things of how it would look, how it would flow, kind of the experience of people. You know, I don't want to have one side of the table just the binders, have it too crowded. So I decided to do on the table, we have 2 binders, and then our middle display case, and then another 2 binders on the other side. So that way it gave room for everybody to kind of look at the display case, stand there for a minute, look through binders and things of that nature. Overall, I thought the flow of the table was pretty good. People had room to look at things. I think going back, I was trying to take some like mental notes of like, all right, what's working for these other folks at these tables? What's getting these people to look longer, to be there longer? I saw a few guys with, they just had these rectangles and cards all in them, and you kind of like flip through them, $1 cards or $2 cards. And, you know, it took up a lot less space than binders for sure. This guy had about like 4 binders, but he also had like 2 or 3 of these single rows that people could kind of flip through and stuff. Thought that was pretty cool, and definitely going to consider doing that on the next show. But got set up, and once we started rolling into the show, had some of the early birds came in at 9, and then general public came in at 10. Our first deal of the day actually came excuse me, surprisingly early. This gentleman collects 8.5 PSA grades, and he was looking at the table, everything, checking some stuff out, asked for a price on I think it was Zoroark. I think it was a Zoroark from White Flare or Black Bolt, one of the two. I just pulled it recently, and asked to look it out. He checked it out, and then as he's walking away, an Articuno of mine, PSA 8.5, caught his eye. He's like, "Oh, interesting. I collect 8.5s." I was like, "Oh, nice. That's pretty cool." Chit-chatting and stuff about it, and how just weird it was that 8.5 is a very odd grade. And then as he's walking away, I was like, "Hey, you know what? I actually have another 8.5 if you wanted to check that out." Try to reel him back in. It was a Tyranitar, also got an 8.5. And then he was like, "You got 2 of them? Okay, now we're talking." And so he checked out both 2 of them, and he picked up the Zoroark, I believe is what it was. So he picked up the 2 8.5s and the raw one. So it was a nice $90 deal for the first deal within the first 30 minutes. So I was like, okay, this is pretty nice. Broke the ice real quick, and yeah, that felt pretty good. That felt pretty good right off the bat. And as we were kind of progressing, one thing I noticed is that people were really interested in vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! And there was not very many people selling. I had a gentleman come up and had mentioned that there was maybe 1 to 2 other people selling Yu-Gi-Oh! Not even just vintage Yu-Gi-Oh!, but selling Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. And I had quite a few people. That was probably, I think, our biggest sale was definitely from Yu-Gi-Oh! We did a large sale. It was some vintage stuff like Spellbinding Circle, Magic Cylinder, Call of the Haunted, all vintage original stuff from my collection as a kid. That was my biggest sale. That was a bulk sale. That was my second one too. So we started off hot right off the bat, and then it kind of dwindled down a little bit. More smaller stuff. Had a few more $30, $40 deals and stuff like that. It wasn't bad by any means for our first ever show. It's pretty good, but that's one thing. That was a big takeaway that I got from it, was vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! People are very interested in that still, and not a lot of people are selling it. So I'm gonna try, once we kind of clear up some space, get some extra capital moving here, I am going to take that information and I'm gonna double down on it. I'm going to go heavily into some vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! And we'll see where we go from there. It was all green lights from this show, and all good stuff, information that you want to take and kind of push forward with it. I'm going to do that. And obviously you're going to be tuning into this show, this program, and you're going to get updates. You're going to get constant updates on how we're doing with that. So, hey, we're going to take a shot, and I'm going to let you guys know how we end up doing with that. But those are the main, those are the 2 big deals that we did for the day. Some stuff that we saw that I would like to maybe consider doing down the line. I don't think we're at the spot right now to do it, but it was like a mystery slab grab bag, and I will not say that 5 times fast. But basically what it was I think $60. There's a bunch of slabs in a duffel bag, and and then you reach in and grab it. They actually their 2 most expensive slabs in the bag got pulled that day. So pretty cool for the customers, you know what I mean? I thought that was interesting. I'm trying to really think of all right, what's gonna get more, I wanted to go to this show and I wanted to sit there and I wanted to look and absorb, and I wanted to have conversations and make sales and stuff and see kind of all right, what's working for these other guys? What's something that I could take or get an idea from and really separate myself and do something just different, be a fun, interactive thing that I want to eventually grow it into. Obviously for this first show, it's all right, I want to learn. I want to get my feet wet, The mystery slabs was pretty cool. You could take that concept and work with anything. Another one that I saw was really cool was a prize wheel spinner. And I've seen this as well too with like, I think the game's called Plinko, where you drop the ball and it goes ding 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 ding, and wherever it lands, that's the prize you get or whatever. That one's pretty cool, as well as yeah, spinning the wheel was pretty cool. You know, obviously you spin the wheel, whatever it lands on, that's the prize you get. You know, that was another way to bring in some revenue. And there was, similar to the mystery slabs, there's these really cool like Pokeballs that had these Pokemon inside them, like real small ones, right? You grab a Pokeball, if you opened up, you know, if you got whatever it was, like a Pikachu or a Zapdos, then you won the prize. If it was anything else, you didn't win. And I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if the ones, that was on a video that I seen. I don't know if they were charging money for that, but just trying to think of different things to kind of like, you know, get people to interact with the table and have fun. And, you know, I would like to get maybe some trick-or-treat packs, you know, pass them out to kids, you know what I mean? Just like, hey, here you go, bud. You know what I mean? Rip it up, you know, just something free, and to get people to enjoy the table and stuff like that and enjoy the experience more. But, yeah, those are some ideas I'm floating around with. Definitely want to jump into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vintage and stuff. Made some trades as well, which was pretty cool. Nerve-wracking, you know, because you don't want to make a bad deal. You don't want to screw yourself over, and it's heat of the moment stuff. I just had to tell myself to slow down a few times, you know, because it's so easy to make a bad deal. It's so easy. Made a few trades. I would say our biggest trade that we made was we traded a PSA 9 Ancient Mew from the 2000s, from the year 2000 promo, back in that movie that I had as a wee young lad. And so we did PSA 9 Ancient Mew with some cash on top for a PSA 10 Gold Dingo. This card, one of my favorite cards in general. I love the art, and you know, the value of it I felt like was pretty good. I traded at 70% of what the market price was. You know, I'm good with it. We ended up doing a coin flip for the amount of cash, you know, more or less, and of course I lost because that's just my luck. But that's okay. I still came out good on the deal. I still feel like for sure I came out 70% of market price on the Gold Dingo, so I am happy with that. One thing that I just had to make sure I was keep reminding myself and telling myself was that I need to be positioning the trade at, you know, whatever. If they want to negotiate on the value of market price, I'm going to start at 70 and then we kind of go from there. But I need to always remember, and for other vendors doing it for the first time as well too, is that you're not doing a straight up trade. You need to, whatever they have at value, all right, 70% of that, and then this is where we start the trade pretty much. So if it's $100 is what you value, is the market price of the card, we're going to start at $70 is your value, and then we kind of go from there. That's one thing, excuse me, that I needed to remind myself is that, hey, you're a vendor. You're not just you're not trading straight up right now. And that's something that I just need to get used to. It's something that I just need to get more confident in. I need to just get more just repetition. I would say in total for trades, we made, I would say about 5 or 6 trades, which was pretty good. You know, I feel like all of them were good deals, came out on top on all of them. Had a few that, you know, didn't work out. Had a bunch of people trying to, you know, sell their stuff. But the money that I put out for the Gold Dingo, I was trying to leave as much cash as possible. I wanted to see kind of where we were. I wanted to make, like, my goal was, all right, I'm going to spend X amount of money, not over the top, but I want to spend a little bit to reinvest back in the inventory, stay ahead. Obviously, that's the goal. And, you know, the rest we keep back in because we need it. And I feel like I did that. You know, I spent a little bit to get a higher end card for the inventory, some higher end cards, spent a little bit. And so I feel like we accomplished our goal. All things considered, I thought it was a really awesome show. Probably the only thing that's just hard to deal with. And, you know, I haven't been to any other shows, so I don't know what the fees are and stuff, but the registration fee and stuff to get the table, obviously I would have loved for it to be a little less. I don't want to go into like full details on what the prices were and everything like that. I mean, you could look those up for yourself if you're really curious and stuff, but I feel like that's a bit of a mountain to climb. I mean, maybe not for some folks, but for going into my first show, I feel like it was a lot of pressure to like, all right, I need to make at least this much money to just break even right now. And then from there, we start to get into the profits, which I totally understand. They have a fee for renting out the space and, I'm sure tables and chairs and, they may have to get some insurance too. I don't know exactly, I'm sure. And then of course you got to make money for your time, which I totally understand that. Yeah, I'm interested to see what some other shows charge. Maybe this could have been a cheaper show. I don't know. I don't have experience. I don't want to really give my full opinion on the pricing for this show until I get into some other ones, until I get more educated and get some more information and stuff. But sure, would it have made my life easier if it was cheaper? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we did make the money back and we did profit. So I mean, it's not like it was a total wash. It wasn't a waste or anything like that. It was a great show. Everything was well ran and things like that. Just, yeah, who wouldn't want to save some money? You know what I mean? That would be silly for you not to. But as we get to some other shows, hoping to possibly get into one in September, a separate show. It's a Comic-Con out in Turlock, California way. And so we'll see kind of what their prices are, and we'll be able to kind of gauge a little bit more on this last one, if we want to continue to do another one with them, or if we want to look elsewhere. I mean, we will see as time goes on. But, I would say kind of going through the whole day. I mean, yeah, made some nice Yu-Gi-Oh trades, met some cool people. Actually, it was really cool. Saw like a few folks that I knew, like familiar faces. Talking to some other vendors in my row specifically, there was about 2 to 3 others where it was their first show as well. So it was like, okay, like, people like the hobby is still at a point right now to where it is hot for sure. Yeah, I feel like it's cooling off just a smidge from a few months ago, but there's a lot of people at the same spot where I am right now. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I haven't really reflected too much on it, on if I'm in at the right time or exactly what it all means really. But also another note is just on the fact that people like in the same spot in the race that I am, is that I went to the post office the other day to drop off some orders, and the postman had said that, oh wow, I've been really wanting to get into this as well. He's like, there's like half a dozen guys who come to this post office to drop off their orders as well. And it's a relatively like small town, I mean, it's not big by any means. It's decent sized, but it's in our town we have one card shop. And in the next few towns over, they have about 3 or 4. So the next few towns over is a lot bigger, but this one's not like super large and decent size. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. About like half a dozen other folks are doing dropping off their card orders as well at the same post office. So I don't know what exactly that means. Like I said, haven't had too much time to reflect on it just yet, but I thought that was interesting. Got to talk to them, kind of get their feel. One of the guys, I mean, the couple, they didn't seem like it was their first show. They seemed like they were wheeling and dealing as well, which is, pretty cool. Good folks. So altogether, really enjoyed chatting with those vendors that were close to me, in proximity. I probably should have been a little bit more social with the other vendors. I wanted to, I don't know. I think for my first go, I really wanted to focus on us, and I really wanted to focus on, my table and looking in proximity around like, hey, what's going on and stuff. But getting some confidence, man. I think that was the biggest thing for me. And the Volt 99 brand is just getting some confidence out there, getting out there and really doing this thing. And then from there, once I feel a bit more comfortable, which I think I would feel a lot more comfortable going into the next show. And every show we do from this point forward, I think the confidence will only build for sure. And so, moving on, definitely probably gonna get out there more and, you know, rub some elbows with some other vendors and kind of, you know, see if I could pick any brains and get any ideas or tips from other guys and stuff moving forward. But overall, I think it was a great experience. I had a blast. I had a lot of fun trading. I had a lot of fun selling. Ton of fun. Just kind of, you know, shooting the breeze with some of the guys that came to the table. A lot of the old Yu-Gi-Oh heads as myself, you know, that was cool to see some guys around the similar age group who, you know, basically went through the same like experiences with Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, playing on the playground when you're not supposed to, and then the bell rings, or like the yard duty comes, everybody scatters, you know, or playing for, you know, like, as kids, you would play a game and you would put up a card for a bet. You know what I mean? If you lost the game, you lost that card that you bet and stuff. So it was cool, kind of, you know, reminiscing with some folks about, you know, their similar experiences as kids with Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But overall, I would say I had a blast. Show was great, and I cannot wait to do another. Pretty much, hoping to do the like I said, a Comic-Con coming up in September, and then we will go from there. But that was my experience. That was my day at our first ever card show as a vendor. Let me know if you guys have any tips. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Let me know just your thoughts on this. Do you like this videos as I blab to you? Let me know. I have been Maple. This is Vault 99 Games. Our next video coming up is making $3,000 selling cards. Hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care, kick ass, and whatever you do. See you later. Peace.